Your Human and You. Written by Mad Max the Black. Chapter 22. And Into the Fire / The Relationship of Pawn and King. Celestia moved to the palace, secure in her resolve, readying herself for what needed to be done. She received word from her sister that there was a human in Ponyville that was intelligent as a pony. She'd expressed her concerns that some pony was simply playing a prank on Luna, but after she had showed Celestia her memory of the encounter, the Solar Princess was more inclined to believe her lunar counterpart.
To think,
she mused as she walked down the empty corridor, as her gold-clad hooves clicked softly against the marble.
It was the same human that was in my hooves all those months ago.
She wasn't entirely sure what to make of the human, but she knew that there was only one creature in Equestria that could be responsible for him, and she was currently on her way to see him. She couldn't confront him immediately after discovering the human, due to the amount of work that came with the recent arrests in Ponyville. The fact that the ponies she had been hunting for the past several months were right under her nose the entire time troubled her. Nonetheless, with all that taken care of, she could move on to more serious matters at Hoof. Rounding the corner, she spied her destination down the hall, a large door guarded by 4 elite battle mages. Their cobalt armor gleamed in the torchlight, the light dancing off their polished metal. As Celestia drew near, all 4 of them saluted with their expressions remaining stoic and cold. Stopping in front of them, Celestia turned to the commander, a dark gray unicorn mare with green eyes, her pink mane stuck up to a crest of her helmet, a stark contrast to the cool blue of her armor.
Major Ebony Rose,
Celestia said as the mare dropped a salute.
Has anything unusual happened lately?
Nothing of significance, ma'am,
the major replied, still standing at attention.
He's been well behaved for the past several weeks. No pranks, no bothering the locals, no harassing the nobles. Nothing.
Her green eyes flicked up and she gave Celestia a skeptical look.
Methinks that he may be trying to hide something.
That is what I'm here to find out, Major,
Celestia said, looking up. She glanced at the door.
Is he here right now?
Yes, ma'am,
Major Ebony said, nodding her head in confirmation.
He had breakfast earlier this morning, then he retired back into his room. He's done nothing else since.
Thank you, my little pony.
Pausing momentarily to compose herself, Celestia grasped the door in her magic. She glanced down at the guards.
No matter what happens or what you hear, do not enter this door until I tell you to. Luna has been informed of what is going on, and she is standing by if anything severe happens.
The guards all saluted once more before returning to attention, straighter than when Celestia had first arrived. She smiled softly at this sight. Her little ponies never failed to amuse her in some way or another. Tugging on the door handle, she swung the door open and entered the chamber. The room was dark, the curtains drawn across the windows. The only source of light came from the fire crackling in the fireplace. The flames made the room feel stuffy and uncomfortable. All the furniture had been removed. The only thing that remained was a large table set that occupied the middle of the room, between the door and the fireplace. Sitting at the table, his back to the roaring fire, was the very creature she had come to confront.
Discard,
Celestia said, her voice icy. Closing the door behind her, she quickly cast several wards around the room. After making sure they would hold, she took several steps forward, approaching the table. Villager Quaniquist smirked at her, his head resting on his paws as he leaned on the table. His red eyes were alert with mirth. "To what do I owe the visit, Tia?" he asked, his tail swishing lazily through the air behind him.
I was informed by Luna that a couple of weeks ago, she discovered an intelligent human being living in Ponyville,
she said, beginning to pace back and forth, while never taking her eyes off of Discord. He showed no surprise at the information, silently confirming her suspicions that he was behind it. His eyes followed Celestia's movements, the smile still on his face.
According to her, this human can not only understand ponies, but can think like them as well.
And what does that have to do with me? He asked, lifting his head up and leaning back. I fail to see how one little human could pertain to the spirit of chaos.
I know you have something to do with this.
Dusty said, her eyes narrowing.
I don't know what you're planning, but it can't be good. I will stop you, here and now.
Silence fell over the room, the only sound being the fire crackling and popping. Then slowly, Discord began to laugh. It started as a soft chuckle, but grew until he was shaking with mirth. Gradually, he recomposed himself, wiping a tear from his eyes as he looked at Celestia. And how? He said, still chuckling to himself. Do you plan on doing that, dear Tia? Especially when you don't even know what I have planned to begin with.
It's hard to plot and scheme when you're stone,
Came the cold reply. Quite right, he said, clapping his mismatched paws together. Which is why I have a proposal for you.
What kind of proposal?
Cecily asked, stopping her pacing and glaring at the Trichoniquus. I'll give you a chance, much like you gave me a chance. Both you and I know that I don't want to return to my stony prison. He began, leaning back in his chair and crossing his arms. It's rather dull to be stuck in the same position, staring at the same thing for a millennium, and I'd rather avoid that fate if at all possible. I also know that you don't want to fight. You don't like violence, and you don't want to see any of your precious little ponies getting hurt. Plus, he added, grinning at her, I think you remember the results of our last major fight.
I might,
Dusty said, her expression unchanged. Oh, the ever-free forest was never the same, was it? Discord asked, polishing his claws on his fur, then studying them with disinterest. To think that it used to be a paradise on Equestria. Shame, really.
Your point?
Cecily growled, trying to keep her temper in check. Out of all the creatures in existence, Discord was the only one that affected her like this. She could remain calm when facing down dragons and demons, but 5 minutes with Discord was enough to cause her temper to flare. And the strange thing was, she didn't know why. My point is that you don't want to fight me, and I don't want to get blasted by your annoying little orbital friendship cannon, he said, wiggling his claws as he spoke. So how about an alternative?
What kind of alternative? What do you want?
She asked, her eyes narrowing.
What are you planning, Discord?
This behavior confused Celestia. In the past, whenever he was cornered, Discord was not opposed to fighting his way out. In fact, it was during one of his escape attempts when he thought that he was home free that she and Luna had finally managed to imprison him the first time, at the cost of several hundred of their best soldiers. She truly believed that Twilight and her friends avoided a major conflict simply because they caught the Mad God by surprise. It could have been a lot worse. Simple, he said, snapping his claws. A large marble chessboard appeared on the table, the piece already in place. I want to play a game. Cecily let her gaze wander across the chessboard, taking in every little detail. Chewing on the inside of her cheek, her eyes flicked up and she glared at Discord.
What's the catch?
She asked, taking a careful step forward. There is no catch, Discord replied, idly twisting a piece between his claws. It's quite simple. A friendly game of chess. If you win, I will allow you to turn me back to stone. No fight, no trickery, no catch.
And if I lose?
Celestia asked, stepping cautiously up to the table. As she drew near, she saw that the chess pieces themselves were made out of glass. The black ones had little white veins in them, which seemed to burn with an inner pyre, while the white ones had black veins that seemed to consume all light that touched them. If you lose, then you are the one that gets turned to stone. Discord chuckled darkly, steepling his fingers in front of his face as a grin. And I remain free.
So, my only choices are to fight you across Equestria, or play a game of chess with you.
Dusty asked, raising an eyebrow. The Draconicus nodded once, still smiling. She stood there, chewing on her bottom lip as she thought it over quickly. On one hoof, if she'd agreed and won, That would save her a whole lot of trouble, and they wouldn't turn Equestria into a disaster zone. Contrary to what her ponies believed about her, Celestia could be very aggressive if she wanted to, and the fact that her battle with Nightmare Moon had carved out Ghastly Gorge, as well as created the Badlands, could attest to that. But on the other hoof, if she agreed and lost, she would be the one that ended up trapped in stone. Celestia knew that Discord had the ability to hold true to the threat, although thanks to some decrepit sense of morality, it was the one thing that he refused to do. She could always count on Twilight and her sister to release her from her prison, but she dared not think of what Discord would get up to during her imprisonment. Celestia continued to stare at the board for a few more minutes before she made her decision. Pulling a chair out with her magic, she slowly took a seat, staring at the smiling draconic voice in front of her. "Excellent choice," he jeered, clapping mockingly. "I do believe that white goes first." Waving a claw, he indicated that she should go first. As they gazed down at her piece, selected a pawn and moved it forward 2 squares. Releasing her hold on the piece, she leaned back and looked at Discord. He leaned forward slightly, a look of thoughtfulness on his face as he stroked his goatee. Celestia waited patiently for several long minutes as the mad god puzzled out his move. Sweat began to drip down her brow as he took longer and longer to make a move. Discord looked long and hard at the board, studying each and every piece carefully. She could do nothing but sit there and wait, eager to see what long-term devious strategies were being evolved in his demented mind. Then, after what felt like an eternity, her opponent tapped a piece with a claw. "Remind me, again," he said, "how the little pony-shaped ones move." Max. I sprinted to the trees, branches slashing at my body as I fought my way along, taking in great lungfuls of air. I winced as my sides burned. I stumbled over a root, unable to see it thanks to the bandage covering my right eye. After regaining my footing, I skirted around a tree trunk, trying to put as much distance between me and the manticores. I could hear them behind me, crashing through the undergrowth as they pursued me. Feeling one of them breathing down my neck, I put down an extra burst of speed. The 3 fillies clutched tightly in my arms, shrieked in terror as the beast roared.
Go faster, go faster, go faster!
Spike screamed in my ear. He was looking behind us as he clutched my head, his claws digging into my skin. Another roar and I felt something swipe at me, ripping the back of my shirt to shreds. I cried out in pain as I felt the claws tear into my flesh. Spike took a deep breath before opening his mouth wide and releasing a torrent of fire behind us. I heard one of the manticores roar in pain, and the presence that was bearing down on us backed off, giving me some breathing room. Ignoring the pain on my back, I leapt over a fallen tree and thundered down the path. As I ran, I felt the fillies tighten their grip on my arm, clinging desperately to their only lifeline. Sweetie Belle had her eyes closed tight, tears streaming down her face. Apple Bloom was looking over my shoulder, her red hair flying in the breeze. She had lost her bow when I had grabbed all of them up in my arms. Scootaloo was clearly in shock, staring straight ahead, mouth agape. I tightened my grip on them, holding them closer to my chest. "I've got to get them out of here." I had just ducked under a branch when pain flared up on my right leg. I winced and stumbled slightly as my leg locked up. Gritting my teeth, I ignored the pain and forced my leg to work. The old wound throbbed as I ran. I was still recovering from my injuries in the pit, and here I was, running for my life again. If these manticores get a hold of me, Twilight's going to kill me.
Duck!
Spike screamed. I obeyed instantly, a paw sweeping over my head, missing me by several inches. I immediately threw away all the complaints that my leg had filled with my brain and kicked my body into high gear. My bare feet pounded the forest floor as I tried to put as much distance between me and the manticores as possible. From the sound of the things behind me, it was a losing battle. But I didn't care. I had only one thing on my mind at the moment. Get the girls to safety. "Why did I agree to this again?" I asked, pain lancing up through my legs as I continued to the mad sprint to freedom, the beast of hell, hot on my heels. Twilight's gonna throw a fit no matter what. especially given the fact that he just seemed to get scratched by the manticore, which I assume leaves a deep cut into his back. She's probably gonna throw a fit and burn down half the fucking forest, honestly. But that aside, I would like to thank my wonderful Patreons. Thank you, my Tier 1s, Angel Booth, Dreamless Portal, Hyperlink, 9Game, Lord, Lost Nebula, Mike and McDonald, Redeemer of Dark, CH, HKH4, Jason, Lord HiE, Macario, Pony Entertainment. My Tier 2s, Captain Blueshadow, 200 Trooper, Andrew Ingram, Chaotic Mist, Cloud Zaza, Danish Dash, Dillian Musser, DJMX 2000, Elemental Wolf 8, Solus Eclipse, User 1842, and Weevu. Mackenzie McCullers, G-Man121 Gaza, H1 Wolf, King Can Panzer, Mr. Crazy Deacon, Nobody, Nocturne, Rocky2522, Styx, Potato 20, Saint Kong, Kriani Dragonwolf, Swordbrother and Mordred, and Volcod. Big thank you to my previous starting tiers, Dark Guardian, Danish Dash, Maverick, and User 1842. A big thank you to my current ones, Abyss Eclipse, and Silent Titan. I appreciate your support so much, and it means a ton to me. That aside, however, this has been Firehearth. Have a wonderful day.